Okay, so that was fun. I was trying to show something, and it totally cut the feed. It killed the feed. So I'm gonna hope to get the viewers back. Hopefully people will come back and come find me again. If not, then whatever. We'll keep going with the show, and it will live on as a show that was not attended by many people. Anyway. Come back, friends. Come back. Come back. Is anybody out there? Come back. This is great. I'm glad that happened. Fun. Keeping us humble since 1982. Oh, Ben came back. Thank you, Ben. That was a fun little detour that we took. I'm going to try and get some more people back here. So hang with me. That was really fun. Okay, let me share this. Share to my share now. That was cool. That was cool. So I was trying to show you how the software works, and because it's on the new computer, which I was telling you about, then it just closed the software to reopen and do the new thing. And then I'm like, well, people, give me a second and I'll come back. I will come back. So where did I go? I would like to know that as well. I just ended the broadcast accidentally when I tried to do a thing that I'm going to do here in a second. So that's fun. We went from like 20 viewers down to now 5. It's fine. It's fine. They'll either come back or they won't. And look, this show will live on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page. And if people really want to come back and catch today's episode 47 of The Altar, they know where to find me. But here we are. Here's what I was trying to do before everything died, is there's this thing called live demo mode. Let's see if I click it now. Turn on live demo mode. Yes. Okay. And then I need to, I think, turn off my output monitor. Yeah. No. Oh, weird. Is it not going? Okay. I don't understand why it's not going to live demo mode. Okay. Well, maybe it's not going to work today. That's fine. That's fine. Remember when I told you all that I got a new computer and I showed it to you and it was fun? And I said, but maybe not everything will work today. Not everything's working today. That's fine. I give myself grace, and I hope you'll give me grace as well. And if not, that's fine. Also, okay, now you know who your real fans are, Ben says. Yes, I guess that's true. Such as Mercy Morgan, who's back. Hi, Mercy. So glad you're back. Odette. Oh, Gustavo. I'm so glad you came back as your first time. You get to experience a nice, epic shutdown. I don't know why it happened, but it did happen. Some of the people, what a roller coaster of a show. Justin, I see what you did there, and I like it, because that's what we're going to talk about here in a bit. Hey, just to get a little bit of the interaction going back on, let's do a quick viewer sound off. So answer this question, would you? Let me know by commenting in the comment section, whether you're on the Facebooks or the YouTubes. Let me know if roller coasters and rides are your thing or not. Are you a person who likes the thrill of the rides and the coasters? Are you likes the person who likes the spinning and the twisting and the twirling? Or are you, maybe I'll set this one out. Yes, bud?
Else.
I'm currently live, so if you want to, if whatever you say will be broadcast to the world. Oh, no, don't let the cat out. Quick, get the cat, because we have mouse traps here in the garage. We're off to a good start today. We're off to a good start today. I'm really proud of us here at the altar. Okay, my question is just really roller coasters, rides. Are you in or out? I, even as a kid, I loved rides. The more carnival rides. Growing up, I didn't live near any like roller coastery type situations growing up in Oregon. But we had occasionally a carnival that would come through called the Timberland Carnival? Oh shoot. Now I can't remember. Something. We were in Oregon. There was lumberjacks and there was log rolling and sawing competitions, and there was a carnival that rolled into town. And I used to love the Gravitron, which was like shaped as a spaceship, and then you would walk up into the spaceship and you would stand up against the wall, the perimeter of the inside of the spaceship, and you'd be on like your own little individual mat. And then the spaceship would slowly start to spin faster, 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 and it would through the spinning and the G-force, it would throw your the panel that you were leaned up against. Slowly, you would like rise up the wall. And you'd be like thrown up against the wall, and you'd rise up, and you'd be kind of like floating, and you'd be stuck against it, and you could kind of move and manipulate, but you'd be... Anyway, I used to love this. And now I have a feeling if I tried it as an adult, I would be hurling like massive. But I love rides. And then as I got older and started to travel and went to Disneyland for the first time as an adult, and then California Adventure, and then you really starting to get into roller coasters. Like, oh, these are fun. Like, I remember the first time I did a roller coaster that did a full loop-de-loop. And I was here for it. Like, this is my jam. I like it. I feel like it gets me a little, like I do, as I get older, I do feel a bit of the quease when I'm done, but I still, at this point, it's a tolerable quease. It's a good name for a band if anybody wants it. Tolerable quease. Anyway, how about you? Olivia loves the roller coasters. By the way, thanks for coming back, everybody, from that mishap there at the top of the show where everything just shut down, but I'm back now. And you're here. Shane's like, nope, I barely like riding in a car. That's fair, Shane. That's totally fair. What else we got? We got Gustavo. Gustavo loves the rides and the coasters. Melanie, I'm in, but not so much a fan of going upside down. Yeah, I have a hunch. Give me another couple decades, perhaps, and I'll also be like, no more of the. Troy likes the ride. Brooke, no, the only time I ever went to a theme park was when I was pregnant, so I didn't have to go on anything. What? Oh, I got it. So it was like your escape, like your reason to not go. Sorry, can't ride. Got a baby in me. Anna says, I used to love them, but I don't think I could anymore. Yeah, I think things change, and that's all right. Mercy says, love roller coasters. We'll wait in line extra for the front spot. Oh, Merce, I just did that yesterday. So yesterday, and I'll talk about this here in a minute, we went to SeaWorld, and they have a new ride called the Electric Eel, which does go upside down and twists. Really, it's a good ride. It's a really, really good ride. And yeah, my oldest son and I waited in the front row spot because there's just, when you're in the front row, it's legit like you're flying. It's incredible. I love it too. Justin says, not a fan of the experience of roller coasters, and also the lines are so long, it also takes away from the experience. So I respect your opinion, and for those who love it, the wait in the line is worth it. It is worth the wait. But I respect if that's not you. What else we got? Oh, Mercy, you remember the Gravitron? That's so cool. I didn't know how unique it was to like our little corner of the world, or if that's a ride that has traveled the globe. Gravitron, not that much. Yeah, it was a unique experience that I think only my middle school self and high school self loved. James, what's up, James? Good to see you. Definitely love a roller coaster. No, Melanie, the Manta at SeaWorld is not, you don't ride on your stomach. That sounds really miserable. You can see that I'm readjusting the size of the comments here. It's because, as I showed earlier at the top of the hour before everything went, I'm streaming today for the first time on my brand new iMac. Let me see if I can, on a brand new iMac, and I love it, and it's super dope, and it's super quiet, which is why I got it, because this MacBook here was just so loud. And so I'm working on the iMac here, and what was my point? Did I have a point? I was going somewhere. I'm flustered. It doesn't matter. We're here. So thank you for sharing in the comments about your roller coaster ride or not. Speaking of roller coaster rides, let's get into today's perspective shift, shall we? So perspective shift, no, that's not even the screen that's supposed to be up. I'm off my game today. This is what I want to be up. Speaking of roller coasters, today's perspective shift, which if you don't know, perspective shift is my weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to for free all you got to do is go to colbymartin.substack.com, enter in your email address, and then every Wednesday in your inbox, I will fire off an article. And I traditionally write about things like religion and spirituality and psychology and how those things overlap. And I identify as a progressive Christian, so I will come at things from that angle. And today, I wrote an article that I'm titling, How Knowing That You Are Perfectly Safe Can Help Both with Roller Coasters and Spiritual Enlightenment. So I'm going to share this with you now. And if you would like at any point to ask any questions, or if you have any comments to share, again, just drop those in the comment section, and I'm monitoring them over here on the brand new iMac that I showed you. I should keep mentioning it because I love it, and also because sometimes things won't work, and it will be because I'm on a new system that doesn't have all the files. It's amazing when you use a computer for a year plus, all just the files that are just and applications that are just embedded into the hard drive that after all you don't even think about. Then you go to a new machine and you start fresh and you're like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, where'd this go? That's missing. So anyway, that might happen a bit today. But for now, let's dive into today's perspective shift. I'm going to take one more sip of my smoothie. Because that's the first food that I've gotten in my system today. All right. Oh my gosh, Tori, thank you. So glad that you're here. I think this is maybe one of your first times, or at least one of your first times commenting. So glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you love the course. If people don't know what Tori's talking about, that promo code's not applicable anymore. Bye-bye. I launched UnClobber online courses last month, and they are now live for like 7 weeks now. And people have been really connecting with them. And I'm really proud of them. So go to unclobber.com and you can check out the UnClobber courses. So thanks for that little tee up there, Tori. All right, let's go back to this scene here. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read a bit, and then I'll pause periodically to check on the comments, and we'll see if anyone wants to talk about things I got on my mind today. And yes, I'm wearing a tank top because, like I said at the top of the show, it's hot right now in San Diego. It's hot down here in our garage studio, and I just chose comfort over fashion today. And I got these nice little tan lines from being at SeaWorld yesterday, also in a tank top. And that was kind of the impetus for the article this week for today's perspective shift. So here we go. It begins like this. The ride begins and I squeal with delight. Because as I said a minute ago, I like the rides. First the rise, then the drop, then the squeal around the corner as it speeds up. Cheering and shouting with glee, I look next to me to check on my child, see how he's enjoying it so far. And I panic. His eyes are sealed tight. His mouth is locked as if holding his breath and/or holding back screams of terror. I see his fingers clutching the bar in front, hanging on for dear life, reaching over as far as I can while gravity and inertia are doing their best to prevent me. I place a hand on his arm and I shout, "Are you okay?" He doesn't answer. Silent. Still. I think, is he ready to puke? Is he going to lash out in panic? Like, stop this coaster, get me off. This is his first time riding this ride, the Manta at SeaWorld. And already, I can tell, it'll be his last. I spend the rest of the ride shouting out affirmations. I'm right here, buddy. It's going to be okay. This is the last turn. It's almost over. It's okay. And then the ride comes to a halt. And our bodies jerk from the sudden stop of momentum. My son's eyes blast open. His mouth spreads into a smile? Is he smiling? That's a smile? He looks over at me, filled with what now I can clearly see is joy. Bud, are you okay? I ask, now thoroughly confused by the contrast between his face and his presence during the ride with what I'm now witnessing as we're ready to disembark. Yeah, he exclaims, as though it's strange that I even asked. So you enjoyed that? Oh, yeah, it was great. Okay then, glad to hear it. Y'all, I had no idea. He was just petrified and locked into a state of this the entire ride. Turns out he loved it. Turns out he had a great time. Okay, real quick. We got another Gravitron. Oh, this was fun. This was fun. I threw out the Gravitron ride, and y'all are with me. Y'all are with me. Alexa, you have the purple iMac? That's awesome. Did Kaylee get one too, or just you? I got the pink one, and I love it. All right, so perfectly safe. Back to the... Sorry, I got distracted by people talking iMacs over here. Perfectly safe. Now, according to the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, did you know that the IAAPA was a thing? The odds of getting injured on a roller coaster is like 1 in 24 million. And the odds of dying, 1 in 750 million. Okay? And I looked up, like, what are the odds of dying from, like, a shark attack and lightning, and it's in, like, the 1 in 10,000 range. So, roller coasters, it's safe to say, are perfectly safe. Yes, sorry, I am back. That was a weird little glitch at the top of the show when I tried to do something on the new computer that I wasn't quite set up for, and my software just said, "We're gonna go now. Goodbye." But we're back now. So anyway, yes, roller coasters are perfectly safe, and yet the whole point of a roller coaster is to create this illusion of danger. With the twisting and the turning and the flipping. If it felt entirely safe, it wouldn't be all that fun. At least, in my opinion. I think that's kind of the point. Yesterday, after spending a few hours at SeaWorld and riding some of the rides, I was talking about this concept with one of my other kids. One of the ones who isn't all that keen for the thrill of the coasters. Not the same one about the story above. And they shared how they didn't enjoy, they don't enjoy the feeling of falling and twisting and flipping because they don't enjoy the feeling of not being safe. Now, even though they may fully comprehend the rational argument, even though they may entirely understand the overwhelming statistical safety of roller coasters, this mental data is irrelevant compared to their physiological response of, "Holy crap, I'm gonna die!" And I suppose that's the difference, isn't it, between those who love extreme sports and thrill rides with those who don't. The one who loves them, they can tolerate and they even enjoy the bodily sensations of the flowing adrenaline and the increased heart rate and the edge of danger. Whereas obviously if a person doesn't enjoy these sensations, then they're not going to willingly put themselves in such a situation, let alone stand in line for over an hour to do so. And it got me thinking about this. How much, if any, how much impact could it have on the person who doesn't enjoy these thrill rides? How much impact would it have to like double down on the objective safety of the experience? Does that make sense? Like, can you move the needle of someone's fear and anxiety by just continuing to appeal to it's safe? Here's all the reasons, here's all the data, here's all the stats. Can it actually have an impact? Can insisting on the perfectly safeness of roller coasters make an impact? So if the scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is like, I'll never, ever, ever ride a roller coaster, and 10 is, I would like to crush 6 flags before breakfast every morning, is it possible to take a person on the 1 end of a scale and use statistical analysis and rational thinking and firm assertion that they will be safe? Can you move them along the scale? Maybe. However, this might be where this term irrational fear comes from. Because we're talking about a response, a sort of response that stems from something beyond or irrespective of rational thinking. So perhaps if someone is truly a 1 on the scale, there's little to no hope to move them, at least not with rational thinking and statistics. But imagine someone who's more like a 2, 3, or 4. At least in my mind now, at this point, there might be some way in which assurance of safety and promising that it's going to be okay and showing how incredibly rare anything going wrong in a roller coaster is you might actually move the needle with someone who's in that lower 2, 3, 4 range, I think. Not like solely. It isn't just solely appealing to reason and logic and stats that does that. And like we have pretty good research now that shows like how people can overcome their fears. And we know that it's through like little tiny repeated bits of exposure that sort of has a gradual increase over time that allows them to eventually move through their fear. Their fear becomes neutralized through these tiny bits of exposure over an increased amount of time. So it's not just like, you don't just get to go into a lab and study something. Like that's not going to alleviate the fear entirely. We need to face it and have this sort of experiential interaction with it. But I have to think that in conjunction with this kind of exposure, there's also repetition of truth-based messages, such as "this is perfectly safe," and "you're okay," and "it will be okay." I have to think that like adding those messages in repeatedly will be more helpful than not. Again, it won't solve everything, and maybe for the most extreme case, it's not going to do a damn thing. But for those for whom there might actually be the capacity to move in this area in conjunction with repeated tiny bits of exposure to the fear, having this repeated truth message over and over again that you are okay, you are safe, it is okay, I think that actually will make a difference. So what if meditating on what is true, and I mentioned earlier what is true about the statistics of the safety of roller coasters, what if meditating on what is true, even or perhaps especially if these messages run counter to how it may feel or how it may seem, what if meditating on what is true can make a substantive difference in how we experience life as it relates to things like fear and anxiety and worry? The key to enlightenment, next section here. And don't forget, I'm monitoring the comment section, so if you have any thoughts or questions or comments as we go along, feel free to drop them in there, and I will do my best to go back and check them out and clean them up. But this is designed to be an interactive show. It's not just the Colby show, although I'm usually the only face on here, but your face is on here when I put your comment up. So hey, multiple faces. Oh, Kaylee has the green one. That's cool. I had a hard choice between the pink and the blue. As you can see, those are like the theme colors for the show, even down here, pink and blue. I like them both equally. Next section. The key to enlightenment. I know it's not super couth to like eat and drink while doing live show, but I'm also okay with it because I need substance at the moment. The key to enlightenment. So my hunch is this. My hunch is that this posture that I mentioned a minute ago, where you meditate on what is true, in spite of how it may feel or seem on the outside, my hunch is that this kind of posture is the key to enlightenment, or at least one of the keys. I don't know, there's probably multiple keys. A posture that remains firmly rooted in a belief or in an acceptance that everything is okay, that all is well, and that nothing ultimately can undo or threaten that. Of course, almost every aspect of life suggests otherwise, doesn't it? So we might state this as an idea that we want to believe is objectively true, that everything is like we are okay at our core, we are okay, but then life constantly tells us otherwise. We get hungry every couple hours. Like I said, I haven't eaten yet today, so that's why I'm having a smoothie on air. Sorry. We get hungry every couple hours. And our body sends us these messages like, you're not okay, you're not okay, you're not okay, you're hangry, get some food in you, you need substance. We need to sleep every day, without which our body will slowly shut down, and it tells us how not okay it's doing. We read the news about wars and rumors of wars, and we wonder about our physical safety, or we might even be in a part of the country that experiences wars, and our physical safety is legit in threat. We experience the chaos of a global pandemic, like right now. And it very much shouts, things are not okay. We might go bankrupt. We might lose the business. We might get hit with unforeseen medical expenses. And all of it reminds us of just how not okay things are. Life is a constant reminder of struggle and strife and suffering, and no one escapes this. No one escapes this. And yet, at the same time, even though no one escapes this, some do somehow manage to live, how might you say, unbothered by it all, perhaps? No, that's not the right way to put it. Maybe unmoved by it all? Yeah, I like that word better. It's not that the chaos and the suffering of the world around them doesn't bother them. It's more like it doesn't move them away from their fundamental stance, to quote Julian Norwich, that all shall be well and all manner of things shall be well. Does that make sense? There are some people that it's not that they have managed to figure out how to do life free of all suffering, free of all pain, free of all threat of danger. There's really no way to avoid that in life. But there are some who have, in the midst of all that, managed to have this core conviction and live from this place of all shall be well and all manner of things shall be well. It's as though they know that they are perfectly safe, even though the twists and the turns and the fallings of life signal to their body, oh my God, we're gonna die. All right, I'm gonna pause there, see if there's any thoughts or comments or questions. James says, I feel safer on a roller coaster than I do driving on the freeway, even as a passenger. Yeah, and for good reason. Driving on the road is way more dangerous than roller coasters. Totally agree. Shane says, I'm quite prone to anxiety. Runaway thoughts tend to compound if I do think about the causes, but I also find facing things head on rather than avoidance does sometimes help. I think you're onto something there, Shane. Thanks for sharing. Massage Works. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Is Fred? Is that Massage Works? Says, it took many years of fear before I could come out as gay to my wife and children, friends, and evangelical church. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Damn, man. I applaud you. That is so freaking brave. Took many years. Yeah, but you did it, right? Like you did it. And of course it was the hardest thing. Of course it was scary. Of course it took a long time. There's a lot at stake there. And you did it. That's freaking incredible. Well done. Well done. All right, so then now the next section here. Focus your thoughts on what is true and lovely. St. Paul, from the Bible, once wrote a letter, while in prison nonetheless, to a church in Philippi. And one of the things that was closest to his heart as you read this letter was this concept of finding the joy and the peace in life when everything around you seems to be the opposite of that. How do you find joy and peace in life when all your external circumstances are inviting a much different response? Toward the end of the letter, Paul wrote this: don't be anxious about anything. Easy enough, right, Shane? Just don't be anxious about anything. So there it is. I guess that's it. No, it's obviously not that simple. Don't be anxious about anything. Rather, bring up all your requests to God and your prayers and petitions, along with a heart of gratitude. And then the peace of God that exceeds all understanding will keep your hearts and minds safe in Christ Jesus. From now on, brothers and sisters, if anything is excellent, if anything's admirable, focus your thoughts on these things. Things that are true, things that are holy, things that are just, things that are pure, that which is lovely, that which is worthy of praise. Focus your thoughts on these things. And practice the things that you heard and learned and received. And then the God of peace will be with you. All right. Now, that's a passage of scripture that I imagine some of us are familiar with. If you've been around church world for any amount of time, you're probably familiar with some of the teachings in that. And I acknowledge that these verses have been misused by some in the church to practice a form of spiritual bypassing. And spiritual bypassing, in a sense, is to say, like, just ignore all the things that are happening in the real world and just focus on the spiritual world. And these verses have been used to sort of reinforce ideas about God, this God who will magically protect you if you just, believe the right things. Just put your mind on the right things, and then you're good to go. And that's I think that's bad theology. And I think these verses can absolutely be used in ways that are not helpful. But I also want to suggest to you that I do see and hear some actual and deep spiritual wisdom in these words, if I may be so bold as to suggest. I think the point Paul was trying to make, I think, is similar to the one that I've been talking about here today on the show, which is that there is a way to engage with the chaos and the suffering of life that can still leave us anchored in this, quote, all shall be well posture. Or, as Paul might call it, the peace of God that exceeds all understanding. Like, there's a way to engage, there's a way to go through life that is inevitably filled with chaos and suffering and pain. Like, maybe there is a way to go through life and to engage with all that where you can be rooted still in this deep conviction, this deep belief that all shall be well. Where you are anchored to this truth, and the peace of God exceeds all understanding, sort of fills your heart and mind. And this way, this path, seems to be rooted in this way of focusing our thoughts on that which is true and pure and lovely. Again, not in a spiritual bypassy sort of way, not in a Pollyanna head in the sand, just ignore the pain all around you sort of way, but in a way that understands, or at least chooses to practice a kind of belief that might one day lead toward understanding that we are, in the final assessment of all things, that we are perfectly safe. Like, in here, there is a light, a seed of divine being. Like, in us, there is a soul, a connection with the divine that cannot be touched, that cannot be destroyed, that cannot be altered, it is not given to us, nor can it be taken from us. It is within us. It is this gift of life. With that sojourn at a church, we talk about it. You are a loved child of God. Like, that peace that is in you is the truest thing about you. And so maybe there's a way that we can live anchored and grounded in that truth, where we understand that to be capital R real and capital R true. And it allows us to then navigate the chaos and the pain and the suffering and the unpredictability and the trials of life. I love the way Marcus Borg talks about this posture of believing that the whole is good. That the whole is good, which is to say that God, the source of all, the ground of our being, is ultimately good, loving, and safe. The whole is good. You are perfectly safe. There is a part of you. There is the you that is you that is perfectly safe. Safe in the love of God. So this is what I've been thinking about. As I'm thinking about roller coasters, I'm thinking about spiritual enlightenment. And Mercy just wants to growl at spiritual bypassing. Yes, that is an appropriate response. Oh, Mercy also says, the all shall be well posture works for me only after the fear, pain has been acknowledged and validated it, even if I'm the only one validating it. I love that perspective. Yeah, because the danger, if you don't acknowledge or validate the fear and the pain, the danger of just sort of skipping that, being like, nope, all shall be well, just let go and let God. Yeah, the danger is that sort of spiritual bypassing where you're not actually dealing with or acknowledging the real stuff of life. And so, Mercy, what I hear you saying is, like, once you name it, oh, hey, fear, there you are. Oh, yeah, of course you would show up right here. That makes a ton of sense. Once you acknowledge that pain man, I'm really hurting right now. Once you acknowledge it and then validate it, like, yeah, it's okay that you are, it's okay that I'm feeling this. It's okay that I'm in this place. It's okay that I'm having this experience. It's okay. Then, what I hear you saying, Mercy, is then you can move to that and all shall be well. And I love that. Trying to do that before the acknowledgement and the naming and the validating is dangerous. Hey, Laura Lee. Laura Lee Cashman says, yes, I find that I thrive when those who are normally telling me that I'm safe are finally anxious or concerned. I feel validated and I also thrive. How great is that to be surrounded by people that see us and validate our experiences and be like, yeah, of course you'd be freaking out right now. You're not freaking out because you're just weak and not doing it right. You're freaking out because this is there's good reasons to freak out right now. Melanie adds, definitely not a sweeping something under the rug and pretending that all is well, but acknowledging that there's fear and despair and uncomfortable feelings. Yes, 100%. Oh, Tori. Hi, Tori. So glad you're here. You can be late. You can be here whenever you want. Well, unless you want to be live, then yeah. If you show up after 3, that might not be. But you're here now. Look at you. And you read the entire article today. So yes, you're good. The only thing you don't know yet is what the altar call for today is. We're going to get to the altar call here in just a minute. All right, let's do this last section here. Roller coasters as spiritual practice. So if you're truly like a 1 on the scale, earlier I mentioned if you did a 1 to 10 scale where 1 is like, hell no, never riding a roller coaster ever, 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 and 10 is like, give me Six Flags all day, every day. If you truly are a 1 on the scale of fear and anxiety, whether it's roller coasters or life or anything, then more help's going to be required than you know, to move along the scale than just practicing good thoughts. Okay, so I'm acknowledging that there are cases and scenarios that are severe enough to where this sort of work isn't going to be helpful. And that might require certain types of medication, that might require certain types of intense therapeutic processes. So I'm not saying that this is a course of action that will and can and should just be for everyone, okay? But whatever the right word there is, I suggest that if we are anything other than a 1, if we're anything other than sort of the most extreme cases of this, then I do think we can benefit from a repeated practice of focusing on what is most true. Like, I do think this is a benefit and will benefit us. On a repeated practice of focusing on what is most true while we are slowly and cautiously engaging with that which terrifies us, which in this case might be life. Grounding our thoughts in this anchor of our perfectly safeness, that in here we are perfectly safe, in here. Grounding ourselves in our thoughts in this anchor over time, I believe, can build up a greater resiliency against the constant waves of life that thrash their chaos and suffering against us. We'll never be rid of them entirely, but we can become less and less moved by them. And if you missed it earlier, I mentioned that there are some people that have figured out how to live this way. These are the more spiritually enlightened ones that have lived among us in all different cultures and religions and times throughout the world. People, men and women, who have figured out or done this sort of practice over an extended amount of time to where they can have the waves of life just completely annihilate them, and yet in here they are unmoved. And that doesn't just happen overnight. That happens over a long commitment to this practice of anchoring our thoughts on that which is true and lovely and good and just. Part of what makes roller coasters so fun, for me at least, is that I get to practice the experience of engaging with something that is incredibly thrilling within the context of all the while knowing that I am perfectly safe. Perfectly safe. And I think this experience is a pretty good metaphor for the spiritual life. Yes, of course, there's real suffering in the world. I'm not suggesting that starvation or physical suffering or psychological trauma or any of that are just like, are just twists and turns of coasters that we can just be like, they're not real. But what I am suggesting is that it seems to me that those who have figured out these paths toward a kind of enlightenment have, in some form or fashion, found a way to experience the suffering as a kind of, but it's not harming the real me. It's not impacting what is most real. Almost so that if they were asked, they might say something like, yes, this pain is happening, it is real, but it's no more of a threat to the me that is me than the loop-de-loop of the electric eel at SeaWorld. Does that make sense? As I was writing this, the words of Jesus kept coming to me like, don't be afraid of those who can kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Whatever kind of, so this is how I'll close here, this section of the show today. Whatever kind of suffering or pain or trial you might be enduring right now, perhaps today you'll just take a moment, literally just a moment, doesn't need to be longer than that, to focus your thoughts on that which is true, that which is lovely. You might just say to yourself, I am safe, I am loved, I am okay. In here. And I get it. It may be entirely counter to all of what's happening out here. And it might even be counter to what's happening like in here. But can we practice just saying, at the end of the day, I know that I'm okay. I'm okay. I am safe in love. I am safe in love. Not as a way of ignoring or repressing, but as a way to practice grounding ourselves in what is, capital R, real. And maybe you set aside some time to do it tomorrow. Do a little today, a little tomorrow, maybe even the next day. And who knows? Maybe it becomes a habit. And slowly, over time, when the next roller coaster of your life comes by and sweeps through your life and tries to knock you off your feet, suddenly becomes just a little less terrifying. Because you believe with just a bit more tenacity that you are perfectly safe. So those are my thoughts as I was walking around SeaWorld yesterday, enjoying a morning with the fam amidst roller coasters and killer whale shows. And as I was thinking about, yeah, but roller coasters are great because you're perfectly safe, but you feel like you're not. But you are. But you're not. But you are. And I just thought, that sounds just so much like life, where you are perfectly safe. But we're not. We're not. But we are. But we're not. But we are. And it seems to me that those who have unlocked a sort of deep, residual, transcendent peace in their life are the ones that have figured this out and that have practiced living as though they are perfectly safe, even when everything around them says otherwise. All right, so that's my perspective shift for today. Thanks, Mercy. Okay, yeah, check out and see if there's any, oh yes, it was Fred. Okay, good, Fred. I'm glad I remembered your name. James says, getting those feelings out, venting them with someone you're comfortable with also helps 100%. That's why I'm a huge advocate for therapy, for spiritual direction, for building meaningful relationships with people where you can be open and honest and vulnerable. Yes, I love this from Brennan Manning. The most true thing about you is your identity as the beloved. There are signs around my house and my boys have heard it enough to induce eye rolls. Good. I like that. Let your kids roll their eyes at that. It's worth it. Oh, yes, Justin brings up the work from Byron Katie, which can help people manage some of those stressful, anxious thoughts. Is it true? So if I recall, Justin, the 4 questions, the work from Byron Katie is it true? Okay. Is it true? And question 2, is it really true? You know what I mean? Like, question 1, my dad said something and it made me really uncomfortable and he was being super rude. Question 1, is it true? Yeah, super rude. Question 2, is it really true? Well, I mean, maybe there's a scenario in which, well, maybe that's not how he meant it. Maybe he just didn't have enough to eat that, or maybe it's like really true. And then questions 3 and 4 are some form of like, what would you be without this truth in your life? Like if you discovered that this wasn't true, like what would that say? What would that do? And I can't remember the exact last few steps, but I know that those 4 questions of the work from Byron Katie is really, really powerful for people. So thanks for bringing that up, Justin. All right, I'd now like to end our show today with today's altar call. All right, so the altar call here on the show, the altar, is a bit of a play on words. I don't know if you grew up at all with any sort of altar call experience in your religious heritage, but you would like come forward and say some prayer, do some sort of magical transaction with a God who now is, I guess, okay with you because you said a magic prayer and had a certain belief in your head. But the altar calls here are a little bit different. These are invitations to change our mind, change our thinking on something. And here's what's coming up for me today as we get into this, get into our altar call today. It has to do with women and sports and uniforms. So have you seen this story? So on the screen there, you can see a couple women playing a sport called beach handball, which looks really, really fun and really, really exhausting. So I don't know a ton about it, but I know it happens on a beach, and I know it's some version of handball where you're throwing a ball around and into goals. Okay, and then did you see this week that there was a international competition, and one of the women's beach handball teams from Norway decided that on their final match of the tournament, they were playing for the bronze medal. The final match for the tournament, they decided that they wanted to wear the clothes and the uniforms that they wanted to wear. Why does that matter? Well, because as it turns out, in the International Federation of Committee for things like beach handball, there is a very specific guideline on what female athletes can wear. Specifically, like bikini tops and bikini bottoms. Like you have to, for your bottoms, they have to be short enough. They can't be too long. They have to be like a bikini bottom. Which, can we just stop right there and say, oh my God, like what? How did this become a thing? And why is this a thing still? And so anyway, so Norway, these women are like, you know what? We are over this. This is absurd. We are gonna wear the shorts, the bottoms that we want, that we're comfortable in, that we want to play in. What if we don't want to wear tiny strips of fabric around our bottoms? So what if we want to wear something more comfortable? And so they wore that. As you can see, they just wore like those tight like biker shorts. I don't know if they have a technical term. Not so much this bikini bottoms, but that. And as a result, they were fined like 1,500 euros or something because they broke the policy. They were fined for wearing shorts that were too long. Like there's legitimate regulations that women have to wear bikini bottoms when they do beach handball in international competition. I hate this. You should hate this. I get it. So I get that there has to be, within any sport, there has to be some governing and regulation and some sort of standards and policies around uniforms. Like that is that's fine, that's normal, that's expected. I remember the NBA maybe 20 years ago, this was when David Stern was still the commissioner, they enacted some very strict policies that, for instance, shoes, everybody had to wear the same shoes on the team, and very, very strict guidelines on what the players could wear, like before and after the games. Like they had to be in suits and be all, business-like before the game and after the game. And then now the new commissioner, Adam Silver, a lot of those regulations have been relaxed and loosened. And now if you watch an NBA basketball game, you can see how every player wears whatever shoe they want to wear. But anyway, my point is I get that, like, it makes sense to have rules and policies. It does. It makes sense. Sometimes it's for the safety of the players. Sometimes it's just for the sake of the game. But when your rule is that women have to wear bikini bottoms and they get fined if they wear something like this, your rules suck. Your rule has issues. And then this gets even not more absurd, because it's about max absurd right now, but you can just sort of add further absurdity to it all when you consider that also this past week, oh, by the way, here's the Norwegian men's and women's team, and you just, yeah, the men get to wear those long baggy shorts and tank tops that fill their entire torso, and the women are forced to expose their midriffs and wear those bikini bottoms. This is stupid. This needs to change. And then also this last week, there was the Paralympian Olivia Breen, who is a sprinter and was also fined, but this time it's because her shorts were too short. Beach handball, your shorts were too long. They need to be shorter. But sprinting, your shorts are too short. They need to be longer. Here's Olivia Breen's tweet and a photo of the shorts that she was fined for. Thanks for everyone, she says, for all your lovely supportive messages. And I'm sorry to hear that's happened to so many other people, because, yeah, you can imagine the number of women that came out to be like, yeah, same. Also been told by my employer or told by some other entity or organization what I can and can't wear. Olivia says, some people asked what I was competing in and what was so objectionable. And it was those shorts. She was fined because they were too short. So what's the altar call for today? The altar call is this. Women are routinely held to standards that are created by patriarchal, puritanical, misogynistic, and antiquated ideas. And the call, the invitation, is to stop objectifying and trying to control women's bodies. And stories like this should bother us. And they need to be changed. It's absurd, it's patriarchal, it's misogynistic, it's antiquated, and it's time to change. So that's today's altar call, everyone. All right, that wraps up for the show. Yeah, bike shorts. They're great bike shorts, right, Tori? Why is this always happening? I would think we'd be beyond this. There's a part of this that's like record scratch. Like, wait, what? This is happening? Like in 2021? Good gravy. Yeah, issues. Anger is the right response, Odette. Ben, weren't Olympics originally done nude? I think you are correct, sir. So, I don't know, maybe we should go back to the original Olympics. All right, everyone, that is it for me today on the altar. If you have nothing to do tonight, or even if you do have something to do tonight and you want to cancel those plans, come back and join myself and my wife on the Kate and Colby Show live tonight at 7 p.m. on our YouTube and Facebook channels. We're going to be joined by Reverend Jennifer Butler. And Jennifer Butler is an ordained minister who years ago started a foundation called Faith in Public Life, and she's now the CEO of that. And it is all about how does our faith intersect with and interact like being a citizen in the world and our politics. And so she's going to join us tonight on the show, 7 p.m. And you are personally invited to come back and join us as we talk about how do these two things, faith and politics, interact, and what are the implications for that? And what has Jennifer's experience been like, especially in the past 4 years during the previous administration and the transition to this one? Super excited to have her on the show. So come back and join us tonight at 7 p.m. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out to me and coming back. If you were with me in the very beginning and there was that technical malfunction and the stream shut down and then everybody had to come find me again, you are so lovely to come back. Thanks, Mercy, for the kind words. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Tori. Thanks, Ben, for being with us. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a good night.